my name is Lenny, and in this video, I'm going to be discussing the film Scrooged, which was released in 1988. It's rated PG-13, has the runtime of 1 hour and 41 minutes. This movie stars the one, the only, Bill Murray, Karen Allen, Alfre Woodard, among many others. It was directed by Richard Donner, who we know from the Lethal Weapon films and from Superman, and has a musical score composed by Danny Elfman. No doubt you have already figured out what this movie is about by the title alone. Even if you've never seen it, you know what's going to be taking place here. This is going to be a variation of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, based off of his Scrooge character. Besides this being a great film just overall, is the amazing performance by Bill Murray. This is Bill Murray being Bill Murray. This is what we love to see. When the movie opens up, we are in the North Pole at Santa's workshop where we see Santa, Mrs. Claus, and the elves. This turns into an action scene with Lee Majors, a bunch of terrorists, assault rifles, and explosions, and it turns out that this is for a promo for a movie called The Night That the Reindeer Died. This is a promo running on the channel IBC. This is where we're introduced to Bill Murray's character, who plays Frank Cross. And Frank Cross is the youngest president in television broadcasting. At the end of this meeting, Elliot Latimer actually dares to give Frank his honest opinion about what he has just seen in the board meeting. And no one really stands up to Frank. No one tells Frank what he doesn't want to hear. Everyone is terrified of Frank. So Elliot Latimer is going to be fired from his job and escorted off the premises. Frank also has a lot on his shoulders, riding on the live performance of Scrooge taking place on Christmas Eve. IBC has put a lot of money into this. They paid for a lot of advertising for the production. This is a big, huge career move for Frank. It is later on that night at the IBC offices that Frank is visited by Lou Hayward, his former boss who has now been dead the last 7 years. Lou is there to plead with Frank to not waste his life, and that there's more to life than television and television programming, and that mankind should be Frank's business. Always a skeptic, Frank is able to laugh this off, and Lou gives him the parting advice that 3 ghosts are going to visit him, and it's going to be his last chance to make a change. After Lou disappears, Frank thinks that it was actually a bad dream or some bad Stoli vodka that he was drinking. Frank witnesses the telephone punch in numbers all by itself, and on speaker he hears a voice that he hasn't heard in a very long time, and it's the voicemail of Claire Phillips. Claire was the love of Frank's life, the love that he pushed aside for his career. The next day, which is now Christmas Eve, after leaving a lunch meeting, Frank hops into a cab, and this is where he meets the ghost of Christmas past, who is a cab driver. The first stop is to the year 1955, where we see the childhood home of Frank, and we see where his obsession with television began. We also see the very first time that Frank and Claire meet each other, when Claire accidentally smashes Frank right in the face with a door as she's leaving a store. And as they both bend down to pick up the packages and items that they drop, they smack heads yet again, and this is where she gives him the endearing nickname of Lumpy. And of course, we're going to see the exact moment that Frank is going to choose his career over Claire and push her off to the side, and this will be one of the biggest regrets of his life, even though he does not know it yet. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. After Frank's journey with the Ghost of Christmas Past, Frank goes to check out how the rehearsal run of Scrooge is going at IBC Studios. This is where Frank meets up with the Ghost of Christmas Present, who is a winged fairy and who is constantly beating the crap out of him physically during their time together. This is where Frank, for the very first time, finds out that his ever-loyal, hard-working assistant, Grace, is a single parent, trying to raise 4 kids on her own, and her youngest son Calvin has not talked in years after he witnessed the murder of his father, which is some pretty hardcore stuff. That's some heavy stuff right there. While with the Ghost of Christmas Present, Frank also goes and they get a glimpse of the dinner party that Frank was invited to by his youngest brother, James. the party that he refuses to go to every year. And he still hasn't met James's wife. You invite your brother year after year after year, and every year he comes up with an excuse to say no. When are you going to learn? When are you going to stop inviting him? And James says, never. Because he's my brother. I love him. Back at IBC Studios, alone in his office, Frank is about to be grabbed by the ghost of Christmas future. When the gentleman that Frank fired, Elliot Latimer, shows up with a double-barrel shotgun looking for Frank. It turns out, after Frank fired Elliot, that Elliot's wife decided to leave him and took their baby girl with her. You want to talk about having a shitty day. Elliot has Frank trapped and he's about to send Frank to see the angels. Probably though in Frank's case, it might have been to see the devil at this point. As Elliot's about to take Frank out of the picture, the elevator opens up and Frank stumbles in. Frank is now stuck in the elevator with the ghost of Christmas future, and they're going to use this elevator for their journey to show Frank glimpses of the future, things that are going to happen if he doesn't change his ways. One of the very first things that the ghost shows us is, on a future Christmas, Grace going to visit her son Calvin. He's a young adult and he still has not talked, and he's locked up in a psych ward. And this is going to be the future for this young man unless Frank intervenes and helps out. The very next stop on our journey, we see future Claire. And actually within the present, Frank and Claire have reunited after 15 years of not seeing each other and not talking. And you can tell that they both still want to be with each other. But Frank still keeps getting in his own way. Claire, who's the director of a homeless shelter and is always giving back and finding ways to give to other people, Frank gives her this horrible advice to scrape them off. Scrape people off. If she wants to save somebody, save herself. And we see in this future version that Claire has taken that advice that Frank has given her. The ghost of Christmas future takes Frank to witness a funeral. And at first, Frank thinks it's a funeral for his brother James. We see that the only two people that are at this funeral is his brother James and James's wife. Even though Frank was a successful businessman, even though he was so dominant in business and knew so many people and could network anywhere, nobody cared about him in life. Nobody's at his funeral because he was not a good person. And now Frank finds himself in that actual coffin, which is being put into an incinerator. As Frank is being burned alive, he discovers that he wants to live, and that he wants to live a truly real life. And as he's shouting that he wants to live, he finds that he is alive. Earning his chance for redemption, Frank is spared and he's brought back to present time, where the very first person that he runs into is Elliot, and Elliot still has that shotgun. The very first person that Frank is going to make things right for is Elliot. He brings him on as his vice president of broadcasting and starts him at 2 times his original salary. Frank heads down to the studio floor and he interrupts the live performance of Scrooge, and he talks to the camera, directly to the camera, and he's addressing the people at home and the people within the soundstage. He's discussing and talking about the miracle of Christmas and how it happened to him and how it can happen to anyone out there who's willing enough to open up and let it happen, and that he hasn't felt this good about anything in a very long time. Frank declares his love for Claire on live television, and Claire rushes to the studios, being driven there by the ghost of Christmas past, the taxi ghost. While talking about the meaning of Christmas and the spirit of Christmas, young Calvin comes up to Frank. Frank asks young Calvin if he has forgotten to mention anything, and Calvin speaks for the very first time in years, and he utters the lines, "God bless us, everyone." Frank introduces Claire to the world. We see all the ghosts of Christmas celebrating the transformation of Frank. Frank and Claire live happily ever after, and the film ends with Bill Murray and the crew singing "Put a Little Love in Your Heart." If you've never seen Scrooge, I highly recommend it. It's a great holiday comedy classic starring the one, the only Bill Murray. I would love to know what you think of this film, if you love it, if you've seen it. If you've never seen it, I would love to know what you think of the movie Scrooge. We have now arrived at the interactive part of this video. If you think this video is worthy of a thumbs up, please do so. And if you like this video and you want to see others just like it, all you have to do is hit the YouTube logo, which is going to be down in the corner and you'll get a notification anytime a new video is uploaded to the channel. As always, I want to say thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about these things that I'm passionate about, and I greatly appreciate that. Please be safe, be careful, and I'll talk to you soon.